or listen on the Sactown Sports app.
Last night, Boston, that's fine. Bring on OKC tonight, right, Trey?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Why not?
Kings wrapping up one of the more challenging back-to-backs you'll find in the NBA tonight against the Thunder. Thunder, I believe, pursuing their 60th win of the season. With more on that, the NBA at large, nice enough to join us, a guy who works for the Ringer now, of course. He used to cover the great Kings and Lakers series way back when for the LA Times. I think he secretly was pulling for the Kings. He won't admit that, but that's what I think. Howard Beck with us. How are you today, Howard?
What's up, gentlemen? As you know, I'm never pulling for anyone, despite my Northern California ties and my UC Davis ties. LA Daily News, by the way, not the Times. But yeah, either way.
Sorry. Yeah,
all good.
LA Daily News. I apologize, Howard. I meant no disrespect.
Happens all the time.
What do you make of this 3-team race for the last 2 play-in spots in the West? It's almost like a kind of a dysfunction derby when you look at what these 3 teams have been through this year.
That's a good way of putting it. I like that. I also like alliteration. So dysfunction derby is fantastic.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because the NBA, I think, to its credit, created the play-in 5 years ago. Hard to believe it's been 5 years. 4 years really. It was 2021 when this format went in, and I think it was the right idea. I know there was some hand-wringing about it at the time, but we have now more races, right? It includes a race like this one. And yes, it's involving a few teams that are going through various levels of dysfunction and are headed for some really tough off seasons and some difficult decisions. And in the Kings case, they already had to make some difficult decisions, and there are more to come, I think. So it's a little bit of a sad race, right? It's not the same as watching, like the Rockets, Nuggets, and Lakers and Grizzlies fight it out for 2 through 4. But I do think, and you guys tell me, for Kings fans, this is probably not the outcome you wanted, but at the same time, it's better than just sitting there watching them, try to tank and just give up on the season and play for lottery balls. So where this finally ends up with the Kings, Suns, and Mavericks, I'm not sure I care, frankly. It's weird that the Mavericks brought back Anthony Davis last night here in Brooklyn in my backyard and are deciding, apparently, I guess they want to play him down the stretch when oddly that it's their best move is actually to tank and lean into it. But teams are trying, and I think from a standpoint of just competitive integrity, that's a good thing.
Hey, Howard, what's up, man? Kyle Draper here. It's interesting you bring up that point of what's up, man, of tanking or not, because actually there is a segment of the Kings population that wants this team to tank, get a lot of a draft pick this upcoming first round. What do you make of just the belief that tanking is the best way to build a champion nowadays?
It's a fraught discussion because if you look across the teams that are in contention for championships or that have won championships in recent years, you can find any number of different ways that they got there and how they got their star. And it doesn't always involve being really, really bad for a year or 2 or 3 or whatever and getting a top pick, top 1, 2, or 3. Like, there are other ways to do this, right? Giannis was the 15th pick in the draft, and Jokic was a 2nd-round pick. And obviously the Warriors won 4 titles without ever, having a top 2, 3 pick as a key piece. All due respect to Andrew Bogut, but there are various ways to do this. And so, if it were the case that you could win or you could guarantee yourself franchise-changing talent outside of the top 3, top 5, whatever, if teams were absolutely certain, we'll find the next Giannis at 15, or we'll find the next Donovan Mitchell or whoever, because there's stars throughout the draft, then maybe they would stop trying to angle for ping pong balls. But that's just not the case. The fact is, as bad as teams still are at drafting, as many mistakes as are made at the top of the draft, in the middle of the draft, stars be, lasting, not because they're not stars yet, right? We don't know who's going to pop. The reality is that in the course of a season, in the course of a college season, and while you're getting ready for the draft, teams still think they have an idea of who's going to be the best player, 2, 3, 4, 5 players. And they're going to try to angle, if they're losing that year anyway, they're going to try to angle to get those guys. And that's going to lead to what we colloquially refer to as tanking. Like, there's just no getting rid of it as long as you still have a reverse order draft that is aimed at trying to help the teams that need the most help. Like, this is just the reality.
That's Howard Beck with The Ringer. And yes, formerly LA Daily News, also New York Times, Bleacher Report, Sports Illustrated. One of the last times we had John Howard, may have been the last time, you were sharing with us your voting here as we were trying to figure out whether Malik was going to get Sixth Man of the Year, which of course didn't work out. But I wanted to ask you tonight with Shea here at the Gold One Center, do you think we're seeing this year's MVP tonight in Sacramento?
I think I did have Malik at the top of my ballot last year. I'm pretty sure. It's hard to remember that far back now.
It wasn't your fault. Yeah, it wasn't your fault.
Not my fault. Yeah, don't blame me. Look, Shea and Jokic are both incredibly worthy candidates here. We did this exercise on The Ringer like 2 weeks ago, and 10 of us weighed in, and I was the only one who picked Shea at that moment. I was outvoted 9-1. But in the most recent, Tim Bontemps ESPN straw poll, it was like 70% in Shea's favor. And now that we're at this stage of the season, I think that was probably a month ago. Now that we're at this stage of the season, Jokic has now missed a bunch of games the last couple of weeks. The Nuggets have kind of flattened out a bit. The Thunder now have like just a massive lead on them. 13 more wins. I feel like it's all going in Shea's direction at this point. And that's still where I would lean. I try not to prejudge. You want to, straw polls notwithstanding, you try to wait until the full 82 games are done or pretty close to it. We don't even have ballots in our hands yet. And, you make a fair assessment then. But yeah, I mean, I have always believed that the wins matter, that MVP is meaningless if we're giving it to guys who are on like a 45-win team or a 40-win team or a 35-win team. It's not just about how awesome you were and how great your stats were. It's about the totality of your contributions and how it helped your team win. And what Shea has done, and you can argue about supporting cast and all these other things, I get it. But the Thunder are far and away the best team in the Western Conference, and one of the best teams in the league, obviously, and Shea is the primary reason. And he's got, the individual stats to back it up too. So I feel like that's still where my head is, but I'll consider all considerations and arguments and everything else when we get to it in a couple of weeks.
Hey, Howard, we got word that Wes Wilcox is going to take over the GM job with the University of Utah, overseeing their basketball program. What do you make of Wes, an assistant GM in the NBA, deciding to go to the college ranks? And we're starting to see that a little bit more. NBA guys go to college.
Yeah, really interesting. When I saw that, my old New York Times pal, Pete Thamel, now at ESPN, I think broke that story earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, I've known Wes since he was an advanced scout, way back when he was first starting out and I was still early in my career. And super smart guy. And I think, I don't know enough about how these general manager jobs are working at the college level to be able to say anything about what that means for them or for him as a career move. I can just say that, I do think it's a loss for the Kings and to an extent, a loss for the NBA's talent pool too. Like, Wes has been doing this a while and I think he's incredibly sharp and will be great for that program, even if I couldn't tell you exactly what that job is because I do not cover college or NIL, but it sounds like there's a lot that now translates with, the NIL system and having essentially, a salary cap of sorts and having to figure out how to manage all that. It seems like there's plenty that will translate there. So congrats to Wes.
Howard Beck with us. And Howard, of course, your job at The Ringer does entail you writing about what's going on in the NBA. And your latest post is about this Boston Celtics sale and what's ahead there before that is all finalized. Celtics were just here last night. How long can the Celtics keep this roster together, given how expensive it is and the new restraints or constraints, I should say, of the CBA? Yeah,
I mean, their payroll next season, counting luxury taxes, could be $450, even $500 million, depending on how things break and just staggering, right?
Yeah.
This is what the NBA wants. They want you to have to make tough decisions. They want you, if you are fortunate enough or smart enough to have accumulated a ton of high-level talent, the NBA would prefer that you share that talent with the rest of the league. They do not want any one team or a couple of teams hoarding talent. I bring this up all the time because I'm one of the 5 people who still remember this. But during the 2011 lockout, David Stern used to talk about player sharing, like this Orwellian term that he'd come up with, player sharing. And the idea was we want talent to be kind of distributed across the league. And then what we saw was, even after that CBA and after that lockout, the Warriors and the Clippers in particular were willing to spend, an extra $100 million, $200 million, whatever, for the sake of keeping all the talent that they drafted and the talent that they had acquired through other means. And they were not going to shed talent. They were not going to share talent. They were going to keep it for themselves. And so in the last CBA, the most recent one, the NBA then came up with the second apron, which, now it's not just luxury taxes. Now you're losing the ability to make trades and you're losing future draft picks potentially. Point being, it's going to be really hard for the Celtics and their new owner. He hasn't been, obviously approved yet. That takes months. But assuming that Mr. Chisholm takes over the team, the first thing he has to do is figure out how willing he is to keep deficit spending effectively, to keep them as a contender. That's going to be tough. Like whether it was him or still with Grossbeck's group, someone was going to have very difficult decisions to make in the next few years. And that may mean losing a Derek White or somebody else along the way. I assume they'll keep Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, but that really great starting 5 or that top 7 or whatever, I don't think is going to be together for multiple years.
Well, if you're an NBA fan, you know that you should be following Howard Beck on X. And
Nope. Follow Howard Beck on Blue Sky exclusively.
Really?
He's a Blue Sky guy. Yeah, I got you, Howard. I got your back, big fella.
I appreciate you.
Right,
I'm no longer posting on that other platform, at least not NBA stuff. But you can find all my NBA stuff at Blue Sky. I occasionally post on Instagram too, but mostly Blue Sky.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Kyle Draper, for pointing that out. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Howard, for your time. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, fellas. Take care.
All right, Howard.
When we come back, what about ranking this season? This is 40 years of NBA basketball in Sacramento. Where are we starting to think about ranking this season? Although we still got some pizza left in the box. We'll dive into that when we come right back to the Gold One Center. Drive Guys on Sactown Sports.